there's something about the lights, sights, and sounds of casinos that spark human interest, generate excitement, and the lure of the thrill. State-regulated and tribal gaming is expanding at an exponential rate. Millions of people each year flock to these venues, hoping luck finds them. For the gaming industry, it means billions of dollars in profit each year. They rely on workers with a unique set of skills to keep their businesses running.
Well, I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Most of my friends, a lot of people's parents were in a casino business. Within a year of Circus, I got a job at Caesar's Palace, which was great. I was the youngest dealer at the time hired, so I was very lucky.
Dealers, servers, machinists, and security personnel are unfortunately not so lucky when it comes to having a healthy working environment. Casinos can offer workers a decent occupation, except for one grave exception: the tobacco smoke. Gaming industry workers typically suffer the highest occupational exposure to secondhand smoke, putting them at greater risk for lung and heart disease and DNA damage.
When I started Caesars, I was a very young woman, very athletic. I used to run mini marathons, and I was an avid softball player. I can hardly run around the block now. I have chronic bronchitis, asthma, respiratory problems, and I have to be on permanent medication. I take 2 inhalers a day, and I get sick with bronchitis at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. All of the smoke comes into your face constantly. The people blow it in your face. If they're on the dice tables and they're smoking, it comes into your face. You cannot breathe. And we're dying. We're dying, we're dying, we're dying. We're sick. We didn't know that it caused that much harm to our health, the smoking. Now they know. Now they know. So what's the value of our lives?
We used to have a badge at Caesar's Palace. We wore a button for every different occasion, and we had a little button on our shirt. Every day you take that button off and put on a fresh shirt, and there was soot around the button. So one day I went, oh my God, that is what I'm breathing every day. Would be a circle where the button is, that was on my clothes, so what was inside my body. So I was very aware of the dangers of smoking and wondering why people were allowed to do that all day long because of my job.
The evidence about secondhand smoke is clear. There is no safe level. Long-term exposure to secondhand smoke causes heart disease, asthma, lung cancer, and other diseases. Short-term exposure also is dangerous. Less than 2 hours of exposure in a smoky casino can impair the heart's ability to pump blood, putting casino workers and patrons at increased risk of disease.
Now that we've become educated and we know the damage it causes, we're sat in this environment that we can't escape from. People in Congress don't have to put up with smoke. My CEO doesn't have to put up with the smoke. I don't know why I have to put up with the smoke. Everybody says, well, you got into this business knowing that. When I got into this business, I didn't realize that secondhand smoke was so bad for me. Now I do. I think it should be changed.
It's human rights. Anytime there's human suffering that's caused by the hands of other human beings, it has to be stopped. And that's the bottom line. We are suffering, and we're getting sick, and we're dying of cancer and other diseases like heart disease. And sometimes people say, oh, you got to die of something. But I don't want to go that way. You know, it's a horrible death, and sometimes it's not even about dying. It's about how miserable it makes you while you're there and breathing it.
States nationwide have enacted laws to make their gaming venues 100% smoke-free. Some tribal casinos have gone smoke-free to protect both their workers and their patrons. The tide is shifting slowly. But change cannot come soon enough for current casino workers, and it is entirely too late for others.
You know, I've been in the business for so long at that point, I just couldn't up and leave. I mean, I still had my bills to pay and a family, so I stuck with it. And in 2006, I was not feeling good. I had a lump on my neck, and I kept getting tests done. Nobody could find anything. After several months of tests, they finally did a biopsy. And on September 18th, 2007, I got a call from the doctor, and they told me to come in. He had something to tell me. And I went in to see him. And at that time, he told me I had cancer. I have never smoked a day in my life, but in the casino business, that's what you put up with. That's the worst thing about it. So as I began to learn about it, I began to think, well, how unfair is this? All I wanted was the same consideration and management had, and that their secretaries had, and that every other office building in the city has.
Yellow, which is moderate. We're now in unhealthy for sensitive groups, not much longer, and then we're now in the red or unhealthy range. This would be unhealthy for the entire population. Maroon, we're now very unhealthy. We're now over 200 micrograms per cubic meter. So in a very short amount of time, we've now entered the hazardous range. So this is hazardous air quality according to the EPA. One of the great things that we have now is the technology to measure exposure to secondhand smoke and do it in ways that we couldn't do before. So we used to not have great data on exposure. We didn't have the technology to measure it in real time, for example, and now we can do that. We can take a small monitor like the side packed aerosol monitor that we use or other similar devices. You can attach that to a worker can carry that with them, and it'll measure actually second by second what the exposure to particulate air pollution is. So it actually samples every second, and it records that into memory, and we can take a look at it. So we can see how levels change as you move from different environments. You go from outdoors to indoors, you go from a place with smoking to a place without smoking, or over the course of a day, how the pollution levels change. So if you're a worker, for example, in a casino, you can see what your exposure is over the course of a work shift. One of our side packs that we're going to use to go out and measure some air quality in some Las Vegas casinos. Okay, so we're headed to the Treasure Island Casino in Las Vegas. I'm just writing down, keeping track of the time. Right now, the time we left the hotel. I've been doing some air monitoring for about 20 minutes now. We're definitely encountering some smoke here. It seems at the gaming tables, it seems like it's much worse. Pretty high exposure. We just walked out of the Treasure Island Casino. We're now in the shopping center outside the gaming area, and I'm going to take a look at the machine to see what we found, what the readings were. We actually found some pretty high readings here. We had a maximum level that was about 350 micrograms per cubic meter, and that sort of correlates with how I felt after spending about half an hour in there. Okay, so the 350 micrograms per cubic meter, that was the peak level that we saw here, and that would be hazardous air quality according to the EPA, and it's even higher than what we saw during the Colorado forest fire in the Denver metro area. So we use that as a comparison. So pretty bad. It's pretty bad here. Pretty high exposures. Certainly not an environment that I'd want to be working in.
Without further ado, James Rapace.
I have been focusing on the last outpost of smoke, commercial smoke in the United States, which is casinos. We have gotten rid of smoking in about 3/4 of the nation's restaurants, about 2/3 of the nation's bars, and only in about 8% of the nation's casinos, and those are commercial casinos. Tribal casinos are not subject to state law, and very, very few are smoke-free. In fact,
the levels in typical casinos are 10 to 12 times on average what they are in the outdoor air. And yet we've totally ignored the indoor air. We don't put any resources in that. The modern technology shows that we have a very good picture of what secondhand smoke looks like in casinos. The air is loaded with carcinogens. The ventilation systems and the air cleaning systems that are in use in these casinos are simply unable to control secondhand smoke. And we were able to measure the carcinogens directly, and we're able to measure the impact of secondhand smoke on both casino patrons and on workers. And we can see the fact that they absorb the smoke in their body fluids, they absorb the carcinogens in their body fluids, and we can relate that to an increased risk of morbidity and mortality, or to sickness and death.
We're all put on this earth, on Mother Earth, for whatever purpose. And my actions, whatever I do, not only impact myself, but everything around you. So it is totally disrespectful if I'm harming somebody else's life. Involuntarily putting them at risk for something we know is toxic. You know, it totally goes against the Navajo way of life.
In 2011, President Shelley made history as the first tribal president to sign an executive order declaring that all workers, including casino workers, be given a 100% smoke-free workplace.
Our Smokefree Star Award presented to Navajo Nation President Ben Shelley. Thank you for supporting smoke-free air in all workplaces, including casinos of the Navajo Nation for now and for future generations.
So being the president of Navajo Nation, my job is to take care of the Navajo people's health, and that's part of my job. And I could think about what the workers are there going through. Maybe some of those weren't smokers, but they had no choice because it's a job. They applied for a job and they got a job. But the environment is all smoke area. We need to ban smoke, and we need to create an environment where people, they can prolong their life and their health. And these are things I was thinking about when I done this. So there is some hurdle that we need to go through to make things real, to make it happen to the fullest. That it's by law.
I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'm a 30-year table games pit manager. I've never smoked cigarettes, no. Just been in that environment for all those years. They took out 1/3 of my lobe, top right lobe, and the doctor said your chances of survival are not very good. If anything you wanted to do, go do it. Get your life in order. I was 48, didn't think I was going to see 49.
His cancer was the result of secondhand smoke exposure in his workplace. He sued and he won.
A settlement has been reached between a former Atlantic City casino employee and the gaming hall he used to work for over a secondhand smoking lawsuit. Phaedra Laird sat down with
Benny is now an advocate for smoke-free casinos, fighting for his colleagues in the industry. Benny also set the stage for other workers looking to use litigation to send a powerful message.
You know, I'm happy to say I'm coming up on 6 years now, so it's pretty remarkable that I'm still here to be able to tell the story and continue the fight. It's just really very, very fortunate and humble and lucky.
While most of the working public is protected, casino workers have been consistently left behind. That may be changing. More and more cities, states, and tribal nations are taking a stand to protect protect the health of casino workers.
We have a lot to do. There are still people who feel like they deserve it because it's their job and that's what they bought in for. Mindset is finally changing on that, and people are realizing, no, because you have a certain job doesn't mean that people are allowed to poison you.
Advocates nationwide are rising up to get the smoke out of casinos, whether by passing strong smoke-free laws or pursuing legal challenges. Their mission is to protect the health of casino workers and patrons.
We've got the science that says secondhand smoke is dangerous, that the indoor air quality in casinos is absolutely the dirtiest that could be around, and so it's very unhealthy for the workers and the patrons. It's time that we clear the air and make casinos smoke-free.
It is no longer a question of if they will succeed, but a question of when.